millions of Americans are struggling just to survive. In city after city, the cost of living has risen faster than the paychecks needed to afford it. Groceries, gas, housing, healthcare, energy. Everything is rising, except wages. People are working longer hours, juggling 2 or 3 jobs, and still falling behind. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. Seniors are choosing between medicine and electricity. And the middle class? It's disappearing. Today, we're breaking down 10 places where Americans are struggling the most. Cities where inflation, rent, low wages, and an unstable economy have pushed families beyond survival. If you've ever felt the pressure, the frustration, or the exhaustion of simply trying to keep up, you're not alone. And if you want guidance on where life is actually affordable again, make sure you're subscribed to Where to Live TV. This channel is here to help you navigate the new America. Now, let's start with the first city, and one of the hardest places to survive in America. 1. Los Angeles, California. Los Angeles is a dream for many, a place of sunshine, opportunity, and endless possibility. But for the average resident, survival is becoming nearly impossible. The cost of living in LA is now over 50% higher than the national average, making it one of the most unaffordable major cities in America. Rent has climbed so aggressively that even earning $80,000 a year, a salary that once promised comfort, now feels dangerously close to poverty. For tens of thousands of Angelenos, the math simply doesn't add up. A one-bedroom apartment often costs $2,700 or more, and that's before utilities, transportation, groceries, or healthcare. Families are spending half, sometimes more than 2/3, of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. And for many, even that isn't enough. More than 60,000 people are homeless in Los Angeles County. But here's the part most people don't realize. A large portion of these individuals are employed. Teachers, retail workers, security guards, delivery drivers, people with full-time jobs who simply can't keep up with LA's relentless cost of living. Groceries? Premium priced. Gas? Some of the highest in the nation. Utilities? Rising every year, especially during heat waves. Transportation? Increasing across the board, whether you drive or rely on public transit. And wages? They haven't kept pace with any of it. Between inflation, stagnant income, and extreme housing demand, Los Angeles has become a place where working hard doesn't guarantee stability anymore. People are living paycheck to paycheck, overdrafting accounts, cutting essentials, and still falling behind. For many residents, the question is no longer, how do I get ahead? It's, how do I survive another month? And Los Angeles isn't alone. Across the country, cities once known for opportunity are becoming financially unlivable, which brings us to the next place where Americans are struggling more than ever. 2. Miami, Florida. Miami has always been a city of glamour, beaches, nightlife, luxury, and endless sunshine. But behind the postcard image is a harsh reality. Miami has quietly become one of the most expensive places to live in the entire country. Over the last few years, Miami's rent prices have skyrocketed so fast that the city has surpassed even New York in rent increases. Yes, the Magic City now outpaces Manhattan in how quickly housing costs are rising. But here's the painful part. Miami's wages remain among the lowest for any major metro in the United States. The numbers tell the story. A basic apartment now costs $2,500 to $3,000 a month, yet the median income hovers around $45,000. Do the math. That leaves residents drowning, spending more than half their income on housing alone. And who suffers most? Not the investors, not the out-of-state buyers purchasing luxury condos, not the wealthy remote workers moving in with big salaries. It's the people who actually keep Miami running. Teachers, nurses, servers, hotel staff, airport workers, hospitality teams. The everyday workers who form the backbone of the entire Miami economy. These are the people now being priced out. Many are being pushed farther and farther away into distant towns with brutal commutes. Others are doubling up with family or roommates well into adulthood, and increasing numbers are making the heartbreaking choice to leave Miami altogether, abandoning the city they were born in or have worked in for years because they simply can't afford to stay. Groceries are high. Insurance is high, especially homeowners insurance. childcare is high, transportation is high, and wages? They remain stubbornly low. Miami has become a place where luxury towers rise, while the workers who serve the city are struggling to survive. And Miami isn't the only major city facing this crisis. Across the country, inflation and rising housing costs are pushing everyday Americans to the breaking point. Next, we head to a city where the cost of living has reached historic highs. 3. New York City, New York. It is the place where dreams are made, where ambition is rewarded, and where millions have come searching for opportunity. But today, the reality is far different. New York has become one of the hardest places in America for the average person to simply exist. The cost of living in NYC is now among the highest on the planet. Rents have reached historic levels, with even modest apartments commanding prices many Americans couldn't imagine paying. A one-bedroom in Manhattan regularly runs $3,800 to $4,500 a month, and in parts of Brooklyn and Queens, the numbers aren't far behind. Even affordable neighborhoods are no longer affordable, with bidding wars happening for basic apartments that once sat empty. And while rent climbs higher every year, wages barely move. New York's median income simply does not match its cost of living. A salary of $90,000, which would be comfortable in many parts of the country, often feels like survival money in NYC, especially after taxes, transit costs, childcare, groceries, and utilities. Groceries cost more. Transportation costs more. Childcare can reach mortgage-level prices. And daily living expenses from parking to laundry eat away at paychecks people work so hard to earn. But the impact hits some groups harder than others. Teachers, restaurant workers, retail employees, delivery drivers, social workers, and healthcare staff are struggling the most. Many of the people who serve the city who keep it functioning are being forced farther and farther away into outer boroughs, distant suburbs, or entirely out of the state. It's no surprise that more than 300,000 residents have left New York in recent years, seeking affordable lives elsewhere. For many lifelong New Yorkers, the city they grew up in no longer feels like a place they can stay. And even those who remain live on tight budgets, share cramped apartments, or work multiple jobs just to keep up with the pace of the city. New York City still shines, still inspires, still draws people from around the world. But for millions of ordinary residents, the struggle is constant, and the cost of staying is becoming unbearable. But New York isn't alone in this crisis. On the opposite side of the country is another paradise with a painful cost of living, a place where beauty comes at a price most can no longer afford. 4. Honolulu, Hawaii. This is paradise on the surface, pressure underneath. Crystal blue waters, warm breezes, breathtaking landscapes. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world. But for the people who actually live here, survival has become a daily battle. Honolulu has the highest cost of living in the United States, and year after year, it keeps rising. What tourists experience for a week, residents face for a lifetime, and the financial weight is crushing. The median rent for a simple one-bedroom sits around $2,400 to $2,900, but that number doesn't tell the full story. Utilities are higher. Groceries are higher in some cases, double mainland prices. Gas costs more. Electricity is some of the most expensive in the country, and nearly everything has to be shipped in, adding a premium to daily life. But the real challenge? The wages do not match the cost of living. The median household income in Honolulu cannot keep pace with an economy built around tourism, high-priced imports, and scarce housing. For many local families, especially native Hawaiians, the islands they've called home for generations are becoming financially unreachable. And then there's the housing crisis. Demand is high, supply is low, and out-of-state investors often outbid locals, purchasing homes at prices the average resident could never compete with. The result? People are doubling up, moving into multi-generational households, or leaving Hawaii entirely. Teachers with full-time jobs are struggling. Nurses are picking up overtime just to afford rent. Service workers, the backbone of Hawaii's tourism economy, are juggling 2 or 3 jobs. Even the middle class is breaking under the pressure. And what makes this especially heartbreaking is this. People aren't leaving because they want to. They're leaving because they have no choice. Honolulu is paradise. But for many residents, paradise has become unaffordable. And Honolulu's story leads us to another iconic American city facing its own extreme survival crisis, a place where tech wealth has skyrocketed, but ordinary families are being pushed out at record speed. 5. San Francisco, California. San Francisco, a global tech capital, a city of innovation, and for decades, a symbol of hope and reinvention. But today, for the average American, San Francisco has become one of the hardest places in the nation to simply exist, let alone build a life. The Bay Area has the highest housing costs in the mainland United States. A one-bedroom apartment often runs $3,400 to $4,000 a month, and in many neighborhoods, those prices are considered normal. Buying a home? That's an entirely different universe, with median prices hovering around $1.3 million and rising. And the divide between tech wealth and everyday survival has never been wider. For software engineers making six figures, San Francisco can feel manageable. But for teachers, retail workers, medical assistants, hospitality staff, and social workers, the people who actually keep the city functioning, the cost of living is beyond crushing. Groceries cost more. Childcare is nearly unaffordable. Parking, insurance, tolls, and transportation add up fast. Even basic daily expenses feel premium-priced. And wages? They simply can't keep up, not even close. Many working adults live in shared apartments well into their 30s and 40s. Some rent single rooms in overcrowded homes. Others commute from hours away, from Vallejo, Stockton, Tracy, or even farther, spending 2 to 4 hours a day in traffic just to keep their jobs. The homelessness crisis is one of the most visible in the country. Tens of thousands struggle without stable housing, including individuals who are employed but cannot afford San Francisco's extreme rent. It's not that people don't want to stay. Many love the city, its culture, its creativity, its natural beauty, but the financial weight is pushing lifelong residents out in waves. Families are leaving. Seniors on fixed incomes are leaving. Young professionals are leaving. Even some tech workers are leaving, seeking more space and stability elsewhere. San Francisco remains one of the world's most iconic cities. But for ordinary Americans, the dream of living here has turned into an economic nightmare. And just across the country, another historic American city is facing a similar fate. High prices, low affordability, and a population struggling to keep up with the rising cost of daily life. 6. Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is a city built on history, education, and innovation, but it now carries a price tag that even professionals struggle to keep up with. While it's home to world-class universities, cutting-edge hospitals, and booming tech and biotech industries, the everyday cost of simply existing in Boston has spiraled out of reach for many residents. The cost of living sits far above the national average. Housing? Nearly unattainable. Renting a basic one-bedroom apartment can easily run between $2,800 and $3,400, and that's outside the trendiest neighborhoods. In places like Back Bay, Cambridge, or Beacon Hill, prices look more like luxury mortgage payments. But here's the twist. Boston's salaries haven't grown at the same explosive pace as housing costs. Even young professionals with degrees from MIT, Harvard, BU, or Northeastern are finding themselves priced out of the very city they graduated in. Families are feeling the pressure too. Childcare in Boston is among the most expensive in the country. Groceries and utilities cost more than in many traditionally high-cost cities. Transportation isn't cheap either, whether you're relying on the MBTA or owning a car in a city with some of the priciest parking in America. Then there's the winter factor. Boston's brutal winters come with high heating costs, icy commutes, and extra expenses that quickly pile up for renters and homeowners alike. And the biggest issue? The housing shortage. Demand massively outweighs supply, especially around the medical and university districts. Older homes get converted into student apartments, driving prices up even further. Many locals who grew up in the city are now moving farther out, to Worcester, Rhode Island, or southern New Hampshire, just to find something affordable. Boston remains one of the smartest, most opportunity-filled cities in America. But for thousands of residents, the question is no longer about career opportunities. It's about survival. and whether staying in Boston is even financially possible anymore. 7. Seattle, Washington. Seattle was once a symbol of opportunity, a city where tech innovation, natural beauty, and a booming job market created the promise of a good life. But today, that promise is slipping out of reach for many residents. The cost of living has surged to levels that even longtime locals never imagined. Rent for a simple one-bedroom can range from $2,200 to $2,900, and if you're anywhere near South Lake Union, Capitol Hill, or Queen Anne, the numbers climb even higher. Buying a home? Nearly impossible for the middle class, with median home prices well above $800,000. What's driving it? Tech-fueled inflation. Amazon, Microsoft, and dozens of other tech giants have brought wealth into the city, but they've also driven costs up faster than wages in most industries can keep up with. Baristas, retail workers, teachers, service workers, Uber drivers. Many say they feel invisible in a city that seems built for the elite. Some are commuting from an hour or more away, places like Tacoma, Everett, or even farther, just to hold on to their jobs. Then there's Seattle's homelessness crisis. It is one of the most severe in the country, with thousands of residents living in tents, vehicles, and temporary shelters. Many of them have jobs. They simply can't compete with the relentless rise in housing costs. Add to that the high cost of groceries, utilities, parking, and everyday essentials, which are consistently above the national average, and survival in Seattle becomes a financial battle. Even the tech workers who flock to the city for high salaries say the math is no longer adding up. Remote work has pushed many to relocate to cheaper states, leaving behind a city still struggling to balance affordability with opportunity. Seattle remains stunning, with mountains, water, and greenery everywhere you look. But behind that beauty is a growing truth. For an increasing number of people, living in Seattle isn't about thriving anymore. It's about trying not to drown in the cost of it. 8. Denver, Colorado. Denver was once one of America's most affordable and underrated cities, a place where the mountains met opportunity, where young professionals, families, and retirees could build a stable life. But in the past decade, Denver has transformed dramatically, and not for the better when it comes to affordability. The city has experienced some of the fastest rent and home price increases in the entire country. Today, a one-bedroom apartment typically costs $1,900 to $2,300, and the median home price sits near $600,000, a number that has pushed many middle-class families completely out of the market. What happened? Denver became a magnet for tech companies, a magnet for Californians escaping high costs, a magnet for remote workers seeking lifestyle and scenery, a magnet for investors looking to buy property in bulk. As people poured in, the housing supply couldn't keep up. Wages, however, especially in education, hospitality, healthcare, and retail, have not kept pace with the surging cost of living. Many residents now spend 40–50% of their income on rent, a level considered highly unsustainable. The ripple effects are everywhere. Longer commutes as families move to far-out suburbs like Aurora, Brighton, and Parker. Increased homelessness, with thousands living in tents and temporary shelters. Rising utility and transportation costs, especially with Colorado's growing energy prices and winter heating bills. Food prices above the national average, hitting lower-income workers the hardest. Even Denver's once laid-back lifestyle has changed. Traffic is worse, housing competition is fierce, and many of the people who helped build the city's culture, artists, teachers, service workers, and young families, say they no longer feel Denver is livable. And yet, the population keeps growing, pushing prices even higher. Denver still has breathtaking mountains, blue skies, and outdoor adventure everywhere you look. But behind the beauty is a stark reality. For thousands of residents, the mile-high city has become the mile-high cost of living, and survival is getting harder every year. 9. Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix used to be known as one of the most affordable big cities in America, a warm-weather destination where families, retirees, and young workers could build a comfortable life without breaking the bank. But those days are gone. In just a few short years, Phoenix has gone through one of the fastest cost of living increases in the country. Rent has jumped by more than 40% in some neighborhoods, and a basic one-bedroom now averages $1,300 to $1,900. Buying a home? The median price has climbed toward $450,000, putting ownership out of reach for many longtime residents. What caused this surge? 3 major forces. 1. Mass relocation. Phoenix became a top destination for Californians and remote workers fleeing expensive coastal cities. 2. Investor buying. Wall Street firms bought thousands of homes, driving prices up and pushing families into permanent renting. 3. Population growth. More people moved in than Phoenix could sustainably house. Meanwhile, wages in Phoenix have not kept up. Teachers, retail workers, health aides, restaurant staff, hospitality workers, and warehouse employees are being squeezed hardest. Many now spend nearly half their income on rent alone. But affordability isn't the only issue. Phoenix is facing extreme heat, which drives utility costs through the roof. Air conditioning is not optional, it's survival. And electric bills reach $300, $400, even $500 during brutal summer months. For many households, that's the difference between staying afloat and falling behind. Groceries cost more, gas prices fluctuate, home insurance is rising, and water scarcity concerns are making long-term living even more expensive. The impact? More families moving farther out to places like Buckeye, Queen Creek, and Maricopa. More people falling into homelessness. More residents working longer hours just to stay housed. Phoenix remains one of the fastest-growing cities in America, but for thousands of locals, the dream of affordable desert living has become a financial struggle. For many, Phoenix is no longer the cheap alternative. It's another battleground in America's cost of living crisis. 10. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas has always been a city of extremes. Bright lights, booming tourism, and endless entertainment. But beneath the glittering strip, a growing number of everyday residents are fighting to survive in an economy that no longer works for them. For years, Vegas was one of the most affordable major cities in the West. Today, that affordability has nearly vanished. Rent prices have climbed dramatically, with a one-bedroom apartment now costing $1,300 to $1,700, and home prices hovering around $430,000, almost double what they were a decade ago. Why the sudden spike? Mass migration from California and other high-cost states flooded the Las Vegas housing market. Investors bought up neighborhoods at scale, and remote work pushed thousands of newcomers into the desert city, driving demand far past what the local workforce could handle. Yet while housing costs soared, wages did not. Las Vegas is heavily dependent on service industry jobs, casinos, hotels, restaurants, tourism, and entertainment sectors that traditionally pay modest wages. Many workers rely on tips, long hours, or second jobs just to meet basic expenses. And when tourism slows even slightly, the economic shock hits workers instantly. That's not the only challenge residents face. Groceries and utilities have climbed in price. Water costs are increasing as the city grapples with long-term drought. Transportation costs continue rising, and inflation has pushed everyday essentials far beyond what many working families can comfortably afford. Even more troubling is Vegas's expanding homelessness crisis. Thousands are living in shelters, weekly motels, or in the area known as the tunnels, a network of storm drains beneath the city where some residents seek refuge from extreme heat. Families who once believed Vegas was a place to start over now say they feel stuck in a cycle of rising prices and stagnant wages. Las Vegas still shines brightly for tourists, but for many locals, the city is becoming harder to hold on to. Behind the neon lights is a harsh reality. Survival in Las Vegas is becoming a gamble. Too many residents are losing. America is facing a cost of living crisis that millions can feel, but very few truly understand. Behind the rising numbers are real people, families skipping meals so their kids can eat, workers juggling 2 or 3 jobs just to stay housed, seniors making impossible choices between medication and electricity. This isn't just inflation. This isn't just economics. This is a slow, painful unraveling of everyday American life. Inflation, rent hikes, low wages, soaring demand. These forces are reshaping the country in ways we've never seen, pushing people out of cities they've lived in for generations, scattering families, breaking communities apart, and forcing millions into survival mode. And the truth is, most people don't even know which cities are getting better and which ones are getting worse. That's why Where to Live TV exists. If you're planning to move, if you're trying to escape an unaffordable city, if you're searching for stability, opportunity, or simply a place where you can breathe financially, you need real data, real stories, and real insight, not guesswork. Here, we break everything down city by city. Cost of living, rent trends, job markets, safety, hidden challenges, and the places where everyday people still have a chance to survive and So if this message resonates with you, if you feel the weight of what's happening across America, hit that subscribe button and join a community built on truth, transparency, and real solutions. At Where to Live TV, we don't just report the data, we help you protect your future, your family, and your peace of mind. Because in times like these, knowing where to live isn't optional. It's survival.